Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, one of my S-tier Planeswalkers, so let's get into it. Before we get too far into the video, I want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to Hell's Bells. Hell's Bells is a newer patron for my channel, and Hell's Bells requested that I make this video. So Hell's Bells, thank you so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. Let's get talking about Teferi. So Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, is a white-blue planeswalker. He is the best white-blue planeswalker in the game. Just if you think of dual color, you can make an argument for Tamiyo or Narset, as they are both tricolor. But as dual color walkers go, Teferi is definitely the king. Teferi's three abilities are Spiraling Time, Sight of the Future, and Plane in Chaos. Spiraling Time is going to return target creature that costs 12 or less to your opponent's hand and increase its cost by 5. Sight of the Future is going to draw 4 cards and give you a bonus swap. And creating a Major Zalfir's Fate token is what's going to happen if you use your Plane in Chaos. So that Major Zalfir's Fate is going to make it so that whenever you draw a card, your opponent loses a creature reinforcement. If they can't, they exile a creature. If they can't, they exile a support. If they can't, increase the cost of all cards in their hand by 1. Teferi has a fairly low health pool as things go with 102. However, his mana gains are absolutely phenomenal. I really like the +4, +3, +2, +1, and then -2 for the dual color walkers. It's one of my 2 favorite mana configurations. What I really like about this, especially for Teferi, is it means that you can match your opponent's gem colors and still get a ton of mana out of it, which means that as with the intended role here for Teferi, he's kind of perfect in almost really every way. So as Teferi is best as a control walker, being able to control the game board through gem matches is really important. And so black is the only color that you really don't want to match because the -2 is a very strong negative. However, if you were to make a blue match, as an example, right, just a regular match 3 blue match, that's going to give you 7 mana. But if you're able to match a red and a green match, for example, let's say you're up against a red-green walker, then you're going to be getting 9 mana, which is more than you would get for your own colored blue match. So I really like that about Teferi. You can just go for trying to get as many double matches as you can, and in doing so, you can match your opponent's colors and you can take away their mana, which is huge. The other really great thing about Teferi is the Plane in Chaos ability. This Major Zalfir's Fate ability token is one of the singular strongest abilities in Puzzle Quest, like by far. Like it's ridiculous. So drawing cards in Puzzle Quest is really easy. It's something that I went over in my Jason Raveler of Secrets video. And especially in blue, blue just has so much access to card draw that it makes it so that when you have an ability that's based on whenever you draw a card, you're able to really get a lot out of it. If you think about it, even just casting Days Undoing is going to trigger this 5 times. And that means that your opponent is effectively going to lose 5 creatures or supports or whatever. And one of the really nice things about this is it's really the only ability that's going to reliably be able to get rid of your creatures, your opponent's creatures, and your opponent's supports. Now, this did come out before Vanguards came into existence, so this does not actually get rid of your opponent's Vanguards. However, this will get rid of lands, this will get rid of emblems, this will get rid of enchantments, this will get rid of artifacts in terms of supports. It gets rid of really pretty much anything except for a Vanguard. So this ability is absolutely phenomenal for controlling the board, especially if you're able to run a bunch of card draw along with it. And the other thing that's really nice about this is that it's because there's so much access to card draw, you really don't need to have a big collection to make Teferi awesome. The Spiraling Time ability that bounces an opposing creature is really not going to get very much use. I would say that I personally maybe use it like 1 in every 40 matches. I almost never use the ability. The only times that I use it are if my opponent gets somehow some huge token stack down, and then I want to return it to their hand, which destroys the token stack. Or if like they get a low cost leader down with a bunch of reinforcements, then I'll bounce the leader token to get rid of their reinforcements. But there really aren't too many situations where you're going to be using Spiraling Time, just because it requires the cost of the creature be 12 or less. Sight of the Future is actually an ability that I do get quite a bit of use out of. I use it a fair amount in Legacy. And when I say I use it a fair amount, I mean I don't mean that I use it every game, and I only use it every like however many games. But it's going to make it so that between the drawing cards and the extra swaps, if you're trying to get to a combo piece or you're trying to get to an objective, you're going to be able to get to that combo piece or that objective more easily. And because of the extra swaps, you're going to also be able to get a bunch of mana. So it's kind of cool having a white-blue walker that's in a way able to help himself generate more mana with that Sight of the Future ability. So the other last piece that I want to talk about with regards to his abilities are that because of the way that Sight of the Future and Plane and Chaos work together, if you're able to generate a ton of loyalty because you have something like Whirlwind of Thought, you're able to get that Plane and Chaos ability down pretty early, and then you're able to just start using that Sight of the Future. And because you're getting the extra swap, you're also going to be getting a little bit of extra loyalty out of that. And so you're going to be drawing cards, which is going to be triggering the Major Zalfir's Fate, and you're going to be able to control the game very strongly. So let's talk a little bit about how I would go about deck building using Teferi, right? So for deck building with Teferi, there's really two roads that you can go down. You're going to want to, if you're either like a beginner, right? Or if you have basically everything. So if you're newer to the game, you want to go ahead and prioritize throwing in cards that are going to convert gems for you, right? If you haven't seen my deck building 101 video, I'd strongly suggest that you go and check that out. But what you really want to do is you want to make sure that you have 2 to 3 cards that are going to be converting gems to your colors, specifically to a singular color if you can, but if you need to convert it to both of Teferi's white and blue, that's fine. And then you want to make sure that you have some removal, so you want things that are going to be destroying your opponent's critters and ideally their supports. And then finally, you want to be able to throw in creatures that are going to do a lot for you, that are going to give you some sweet beefy goodness, right? So I made this deck here for Pauper following those guidelines, right? And so when I say Pauper, I mean not using any rares. So Mystic Sanctuary is a common. It's going to convert 2 gems to blue. It's also going to make it so that if there's 8 or more blue gems on the board, you're going to pick a spell from your graveyard and get that back. But really, this is just in here for the converting gems to blue. I'm really enjoying the landfall mechanic right now. So if you're watching this at a time that landfall is in standard, so basically if you're watching this anytime in like kind of like the next year, then you're going to be able to access landforming in standard. I said landfall. I meant landforming. Shame on me. But landforming is going to make it so that if you make a horizontal swap, that you are going to get a land token down that's going to convert gems. And so Silundi Visions is one of them. Silundi Visions as at the uncommon range is going to go ahead and create a land that's going to convert gems to blue. And then it's going to have 2 shields. It's going to stay on the board. Umara Wizard is going to do much the same thing. It's going to create this Umara Skyfalls token. It's going to go ahead and convert 2 gems to blue. So using things like Mystic Sanctuary, Silundi Vision, and Umara Wizard, I've already got my 3 gem converters. But just for extra giggles, I also for this deck threw in Temple of Enlightenment because it's going to convert to blue and white, and it also draws a card which Teferi likes, especially if you can get that Major Zalfir's Fate token down. So as you're looking at how to build around Teferi, that first thing that you're going to want to do is go into your card pool. You're going to want to go ahead and select whatever sets are standard, assuming you're building a standard deck. If you're building Legacy, disregard the build based on standard. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to type in convert, right? Ideally, if you have them, you can type in convert, not bow, but convert blue. That's going to help you out. You're going to be able to hit convert blue, and then you're going to be able to go through your supports that are going to be converting to just blue. Alternatively, you could also go ahead and do convert white, and that will show you what's going to convert white. Or if you have them, you could even type in convert Planeswalker, and that will show you which of your supports are going to convert to gems of your Planeswalker's colors, right? So make sure you include that. Now, once you've got your gem converters, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that you have some removal. And Teferi is in a place right now that's actually pretty solid on the removal front, because there's some really good removal in white right now at the uncommon range. So we've got Dire Tactics, which is going to be a 6-mana spell that exiles target opposing creature. I really like this in Teferi. I like this in all my white decks, honestly. But I particularly like this in Teferi because at 6 mana, we can get 6 mana from making a blue or a white match. And we could also get 6 mana from matching any other 2 gems as long as, or, making any double swap except for black. So that's going to make it really easy to get a Dire Tactics off and destroy our opponent's big or nasty creatures. We just get rid of them. We like that. And it's not even just destroy, it's exile, so which is extra sweet. And then I also really like Journey to Oblivion. I don't like it quite as much as I like Dire Tactics because Journey to Oblivion is a support, and when it's destroyed, the first creature card in your opponent's hand gains full mana. So it's going to make it so that they're eventually going to potentially get that critter back that you're getting rid of. But nonetheless, I can't understate how important it is to be able to exile and destroy your opponent's creatures. So using something like Journey to Oblivion is really good. The last thing that Teferi has like super going for him from the Pauper standpoint right now is that you can throw in Staggering Insight. And this is quite possibly the best Pauper card in the game right now. It's an aura, it costs 10 mana, and it's going to give a creature you control +2/+2 lifelink, and then when this creature deals combat damage to your opponent's Planeswalker, draw a card. So in this here Pauper deck, I just went ahead and I threw in Staggering Insight. It's kind of like a poor person's Shadow Spear, although in Teferi it has some situationally better use because of Teferi's third ability. So this is what I went with for the Pauper deck. To round out my creatures, I threw in Erois' Champion just because it's a really strong double strike creature, and so that's actually pretty useful if you're newer to the game. And then I threw in some mutators. So mutate to draw a card, and mutate to, once again, draw a card. And if it's a land, immediately put it into play. So the idea here was to just make it so that I can draw a whole bunch of cards, try and get to my third ability, get that Zalfir's Fate token down. I really don't have any good support removal here, so I'm definitely relying on my third ability with this, and that's generally what I'm going to be going for. If you've really got basically everything, Teferi is kind of like the best conduit for the Legacy Omniscience decks. It's just ridiculous. You get to Omniscience really, really quickly, and between cards like Whir of Invention, and if you want to use it, you can even run Idyllic Tutor to fetch your Omniscience. You're just able to get Omniscience down really consistently, really quickly, and with Deploy the Gatewatch, you do dirty, dirty, horrible things and smash your opponents, and then it becomes popcorn, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show some gameplay with Teferi in the Pauper range. So you'll get to see this deck right here in action. And then I'm going to go ahead and show off a Teferi deck in the Mythic Masterpiece range, also for, the Legacy Omniscience deck, right? So you can see really 2 different examples of Teferi at work. So let's get into that gameplay. So in this match, I matched up against Karn. You'll see that in my opening hand, I've got Gem Conversion from the Mystic Sanctuary, and then I've got my Dreamtail Heron, which is a mutate critter. I actually wound up freezing down the mutate Heron in my hand. I did not want to play it. I wanted to make sure that I had something that I could mutate it onto. So drawing the Parcel Beast there was really nice. If you put a creature with mutate onto another creature with mutate, you get both of the mutate effects, which is really cool. So that's going to make it so that anytime that creature is, like I play another copy of that creature, it's going to give me draw 2 cards. So the gem conversion is already starting to work in my favor. I like that. You'll see that I got a free gem match over there. And that's part of what makes gem conversion just so incredibly important. And you'll see that the way that I'm going to be matching gems is going to be trying to get cascades, because Teferi has just such good mana gains to opponents' colors, and just to all colors but black. It really makes sense to try and get some cascades going with him. And then the other thing that you're going to see is that I'm going to be prioritizing getting my gem conversion down. And that is just in case my opponent does start to pop off. Now I make a huge mistake there. I had the red gem, the five match there. But I was thinking about like what I was doing and what I wanted to say for the video, and then I just sort of went like, had a brain fart, but oh well. And so you'll see that with the gem conversion, I'm already at my second ability. So you're going to be getting to your abilities pretty quickly with Teferi if you're running decent gem conversion also. And then if, like terrible things happen, you'll be able to respond to them a little bit better. And so when I say terrible things, I mean like our opponent getting out a big vigilant creature that now has protection from blue and green. That counts as one of those really bad things. So here we'll get to see how absolutely resilient Teferi is, even though I'm clearly not playing an absolutely great deck. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put Staggering Insight on the Erois' champion, just because even if I lose the critters that I currently have on the battlefield, I don't, because the little merfolk critter, the Umara Wizard, has flying there. But even if I lose my critters, having Double Strike and Lifelink on that champion is going to make it so it's going to be a lot easier for me to get back in the match. And so my gem conversion is doing more of what I want. I've got a 5 match over on the right, so you can bet that I'm going to be taking that. And so because I've got the Parcel Beast available to mutate here, I'm going to go ahead and mutate it onto my champion, which is going to reinforce it. And because it's got Double Strike, that's super huge. And I drew a card. It was a land. It put it directly into play. And you'll see that Karn lost a creature. So Karn lost a creature when I drew a card to the mutate. And so that's Teferi's third in action. It's an absolutely lethal ability. And at this stage, unless Karn destroys my third ability, Karn really doesn't have a good way of getting back into the game. So I'm going to get the Dire Tactics there just so that I've got a little bit of extra removal in case I need it. But, I mean, let's face it, between the Double Strike Berserker and my third ability, I really don't need it. But, you know, it's nice to have, I suppose. More gem conversion coming in clutch. Another critter from Karn getting exiled. And so this just really puts you in such a strong position. It's just one of the great things about Teferi. You get into incredibly powerful positions. So there's my opponent's other critter. It's gone. It's being exiled to me drawing a card. I'm going to go ahead and put Staggering Insight on my Umara Wizard just so I've got a little bit more lifelink going. And then with the Mystic Sanctuary, I really don't need anything there. So I mean, ideally here, right, like best case scenario, I'm going to start removing cards from my hand so that I'm drawing more, so that I increase the cost of all the cards in Karn's hand more, because at this stage, I want to say that I'm drawing an extra 3 cards per turn because of all of the goodness. So I'm going to go ahead and use Teferi's second here. This is going to give me a bonus swap. It's also going to draw me some more cards, which is going to increase the cost of the cards in Karn's hand a little bit more. I was kind of getting a little bit greedy. I was hoping that this would actually be a turn that I could win the game in. So I get a pretty nice cascade here, which means that I can throw another Staggering Insight onto Erois' champion, or if I want, I can just make it so all my critters have lifelink. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I mean, getting lifelink on everything is obviously a big win in my books. And so at this stage, I've got the Staggering Insights. I've got the Journey to Oblivion. I've got, what, 20, 37, 45 damage. So I'm short 1 damage to be able to kill Karn here with the hand that I've got. So I'm kind of hoping to get a Cascade. I don't get it. It's really not a big deal. The mana cost of the cards in Karn's hand is pretty big, and that's going to be it, right? Like, we got our third ability, and that's really going to be the story of most Teferi games that you play. If you get your third ability down, you win the match. Like, there's not a lot your opponent can do. So really, really strong, even with Pauper in standard with other Platinum players. So let's go ahead and move into the, shenanigan nonsense, devilish masterpiece nonsense. Alrighty, so here I'm actually running Angel of Destiny instead of Angel of Invention, which you saw at the beginning of the video. That's just because Angel of Destiny does dirty things. I'm not even like fishing for a super match here where like I get a turn 1 win, which I've gotten quite a few of with this deck. I'm actually just searching for the like, what does this deck normally look like? Now you'll see that I'm freezing down a Whir of Invention. You might think that's a little bit of an odd choice, but I can't tell you how often my opponent winds up destroying my Omniscience, because in Legacy they wind up having some kind of support removal. So if you've got a bonus Whir of Invention and you don't have anything to draw cards with in the immediate turn, go ahead and just leave your extra Whir of Invention in your hand, and then you've really got nothing that you actively need to worry about. So Pull from Tomorrow is kind of silly, because even though it says you discard and then draw, you actually get to draw anyways. So this should actually be game over. I really don't think that there's going to be a very good chance that my opponent is able to do very much to change the outcome of this match here. So I've got a Kozilek, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to risk it for the biscuit here. We're going to see if Kozilek gives us like a Deploy the Gatewatch. Yep, okay. Oh gosh, double deploy, really? If you're wondering, this is actually a live comm. I'm actually commentating as I play. Usually what I do is I record and then I talk over it. But yeah, this is game over. My opponent's dead. This is ridiculous. So yeah, this is just like every single match. Like, I'm not kidding. This is every single match basically with this deck. It's unfair and unbalanced. It's unhinged.
but not actually unhinged, although an unset in Puzzle Quest would be kind of cool. So yeah, absolutely lethal. We're going to go ahead and say no just so that we end the match. And Kasplat, Narset's dead. That's it. Goodbye. Shebang. Love you, Gangsta Dave. Sorry about that. In conclusion, Teferi is an absolute beast of an S-tier Planeswalker. If you're a newer player to the game, my suggestion is that you pick up Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and you pick up the black-green Garruk Cursed Huntsman as your first two Planeswalkers after you pick up the Origins Walkers. So these two walkers are absolutely incredible. Teferi is great regardless of your collection. He's going to enable you to win a lot of games that you maybe wouldn't be able to win otherwise. The Major Zalfir's Fate ability especially, it's just so forgiving. You get this down and you basically win the game. Your opponent really doesn't get that many turns to try and react to it, especially because a lot of people don't seem to run heavy support removal. So yeah, this Planeswalker is absolutely bonkers. So if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead, let me know in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.